This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
3, 2, 1, go, go, go! Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever you may be listening to this. This is episode 36 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. We've got an amazing show, even if I say so myself, in store for you. My name is Tom, and I'm joined, as ever, by my faithful team of Dreamcast experts from around the globe. I've got Mr. Mike Phelan. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Tom.
We've got Aaron the Gagaman Foster. Hey, Aaron.
Hello.
And joining us all the way from Ross, right? This is just a quick thing, right? Why do they call Australia down under, but they don't call Japan down under, even though they're kind of in the same place on the planet?
Well, Japan's in the northern hemisphere. Yeah.
Answers that question.
Hello, Ross.
Yes, hello.
We do have a very special guest. His name is Lewis. He also goes by the tag Sonic Yoda. Lewis is from the Sega fan site Sega Driven. Lewis, thank you very much for joining us. How the devil are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, thank you for taking the time out to join us. This is, again, like a kind of a colliding of different Sega fan sites, and it's, hopefully all the better for it. What we usually do is we talk about what we've picked up and what we've played in the last week or so since our last podcast, but I'm going to come to you first, because as the amazing prog rock band McFly once sang, it's all about you.
Jesus.
Nice.
What an introduction.
What, the prog rock bit or the part that I mentioned McFly?
The fact that they're in the same sentence. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, Lewis, Sega Driven is a website I'm very familiar with. I can't actually remember when I was first aware of it, but it seems like one of those sites that's always been around. So can we talk a little bit about the site and how you got started with it and that kind of thing?
Yeah, okay. So Sega Driven was born out of closing my Sonic fan site, which was just called Sonic Yoda at the time. And I closed that around 2008, I think. It was off the back of Sonic Unleashed, which I was like, this game is stinking. I'm really having a hard time staying interested in this community. And it was a pretty toxic time for the Sonic community as well. I remember like the whole spiel with the guy from Sonic Cult and stuff, like him being arrested and things. It was just not a nice time to be a part of that community, and I was losing interest quite rapidly.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like Sonic Yoda had a sub website called Mega Driven at the time, which was basically just 16-bit stuff. It's kind of like the hardware bit on Sega Driven at the moment, with all the consoles in and stuff, and just features and things on that. And I really enjoyed that side of it. It was basically just me sort of indulging in all the retro side of the Sega stuff, all the stuff that I grew up with, essentially. So that became the basis for Sega Driven. I sort of relaunched around December time, because that's something you do, apparently. Like, you launch a website during Christmas period. That's a very good idea. And then, I've been running it since. And I think it's probably one of the better things I've done, like website-wise. I'm still sort of passionate about the Sega side of things, and very much the retro and a lot of the 90s sort of merchandise and things. I mean, I did a merchandise update this afternoon as well, actually. So,
The site is one of the, for me anyway, when I look on the internet for like Sega stuff, I mean, I go to the general sites like Sega Bits, Sega Nerds, and also Sega Driven. So it's kind of in that... Cool. Esteemed company. Yeah,
I think when I started it, I think the only one that was kind of kicking around was Sega Nerds. So that was kind of like the inspiration behind it as well, because there wasn't too many sort of Sega centric websites at the time. So
there was also a Sega Shiro at that time.
Sega Shiro. I found them a little bit later. They seem to have gone a little bit sort of inactive. They had this lovely sort of like website
They're
refresh.
Still kind of going. Yeah. They update occasionally.
Yeah. Again, like that was the sort of like scene at the time, but now there's obviously quite a few people kicking around, and it's nice and healthy.
There's definitely been a surge in new Sega related sites in the last couple of years I've seen anyway. But also, as well as the Sega Sega stuff that you do and the gaming stuff, you're also quite kind of well known in the in music circles because you also run a blog called is it UK Scum Scene?
That's the one. Yeah. So yeah, that's well, like my two big passions, I suppose, are music and games. So it's nice to have the music side of things. So that my friend Catbird is the DJ of the Sunday afternoon show on Total Rock, and he came up with the name UK Scum Scene like when I was in high school, and he was running like a little website that he was trying to track like every sort of UK heavy music band that was currently active at the time, and it didn't really sort of like pick up, but the name always stuck with me, and I asked him like if I could use it when I started the website, and yeah, it's basically just any sort of UK centric heavy music I'd like to cover, like whether it's rock, punk, metal, whatever, and yeah, it's been really fun. It's been really fun to do that, and it's nice to like, you know, if games is getting me down, because you know how games can be, the community is a bit of ups and downs, and
then some,
I just jump over the UK Scum Scene and do a little bit of that for a while, so it's nice to have like the two sides of things.
It's good to have like another interest away from games that you can kind of go to. Definitely, I certainly recommend that. I mean, for me, mine's running, so I always, you're a
big fitness dude.
Thanks very much for giving us a bit of a history of your, like, you know, background with Sega websites and stuff, Lewis. Yeah, so that's UK Scum Scene, not to be confused with Scum VM, which is the Dreamcast emulator. Right, guys, thanks for that, Lewis. Let's go.
Done.
Yeah, totally. Let's go around the table and talk a little bit about things that we may have picked up since our last podcast. I'm going to come to you first, Aaron. What have you played or bought in the last week or so?
Not a lot, to be honest. Mainly just today I've been playing a few random Dreamcast racing games just to be prepared for this. Just trying to confirm a couple things for my list kind of thing. And yeah, I actually ended up... Do you remember an old Dreamcast Junkyard video I did years back? One of the rummage reviews for a game called Zuzar Varzar.
Yes, I do, yeah.
I was playing quite a bit of that earlier, just before the podcast, because the mode in that where you get weapons is actually really fun.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's a good take on the chariot racing kind of genre, isn't it? Chariot racing.
Yeah. It's like pod racing, but weirder, much weirder. and the combat's just ridiculous because it's just like lasers and flamethrowers and bullets just flying in every conceivable angle. And
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there because we're going to get onto this in the main part of the podcast.
Yeah.
But, cool. I'll move on. I'm going to come to you next, Mike. What have you been playing or picked up?
So I haven't been playing a huge amount apart from the same subject we're going to talk about later on. But I have picked up a bit of a bargain this week. I picked up the Sakura Wars complete box set on Dreamcast, which is something which I've been after for a while. Usually goes for a fair bit of money. One was reduced to £20. I thought, yeah, I got them.
Is that all of the Sakura Wars then?
It's a complete box. It's a complete box set.
Yeah.
So it's the 10 different discs in there.
Blimey.
Which means I think I've only got two more. Of
50p a disc, that is?
It's not. Well, no, it's not.
I think.
£2.
No, wait.
£2
a disc.
Not maths isn't your strong point, is it?
No.
That's fine. I'm with you on that one.
I had to think about that as soon as it came out of my mouth. I was like,
It's a bit of a bargain.
Yeah.
Which good to get.
Anything on current gen?
I haven't bought anything at all this week. I've still been playing Lego Force Awakens, which my 6-year-old nephew has actually finished the game before I have, which I'm not entirely sure I'm happy about. But
how dare you?
Okay, we'll come to you next, Ross. Before we talk about what you've been playing, Ross, shall we explain to the girls and boys why your voice was almost inaudible on the fighting podcast?
Because my Snowball microphone wasn't working, and I had to use this crappy, cheap...
The real reason why you were...
Well, yeah. At the time, I thought my Snowball wasn't working. And then I looked on YouTube, and I was like, why is it not working? Because the red light was coming up, but just couldn't get it to record anything. And I looked on YouTube, like, it looks like a fix for Snowball malfunction. And this guy had actually made a YouTube video of him doing it. And he was like, oh, I did this once. What I did is the connector in the back of the Snowball, I accidentally put it in upside down. And he actually made a video like, oh, look, this is how you fix it. You pull it out, turn it upside down, turn it right way around and put it back in again. So yeah,
oh god,
I did that, and then it's fine. But the connection, the size of the connection is such that you shouldn't be able to put it in the wrong way round, but you can, and it still fits in
Yeah,
nicely.
I've got one of these as well, and even though I've never put it in the wrong way round, I could see how that could happen because the port in the back is too big.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clear that up for people who kept sending me messages saying they could hardly hear us. I'm like, I've done as much as I can with the gain and tried to put it up. But anyway, stupidity aside, what have you been playing?
Well, actually, I got a chance to play a bit of the Vive today.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah,
yeah. My a friend nearby, he ordered one from America, and he downloaded most of the games that are available today, and we were just trying them all out. And yeah, it was pretty amazing to be honest. So I played PSVR before, and that's just like sit down VR, and it was great. But this, like the games, didn't seem as big, like high budget as some of the stuff I've seen on PSVR. They were all like low budget mini games, indie stuff.
Yeah,
but
a lot of early
like,
access and that. Yeah.
Extra dimension, like added by the ability to like move around in a 3D space, was pretty unreal.
Yeah, the motion controls look really interesting on that thing. It kind of feels like what the Wii was. They wanted the Wii to be, but they didn't have the technology at the time. It's like it's what
was
it is
that game?
now.
Something Red Steel, was it?
Oh, with the swords.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing the videos, like the first Wii videos of that, and it looked so awesome? And like the video, they showed the guy playing it, and they made it look like it was 1-to-1 movement when really it was nothing like that. But yeah, this is what what the Wii was promising, like 10 years ago or whatever. Like it's actually here now.
Cool. And have you played anything on the Dreamcast?
Yeah, I was playing a lot of racing games today in preparation for this podcast. I thought I should try some of the like other games or lesser known games I haven't tried. Needless to say, after playing them, my choices haven't changed. So most of them weren't that great. Denture to Go was pretty fun though, because I hadn't played that before.
Have you got the controller for that?
Yeah, I've got the train controller. Yeah.
That thing's
once again, I'm going to stop you there because we'll come to this in the actual main part of the podcast. I'm going to move to you, Lewis. I'm going to ask, what have you been playing? Do you play on your Dreamcast a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got mine a little bit sort of near the end of its lifespan. I think I got it in 2002. So, amassed a little bit of a collection with it. The things I've been recently picking up are. Do you remember when we were at Doncaster? There was that Sega Mags stall.
Yes, I do, of course,
he really sort of like spurred me on to get some old magazines and stuff. And I never owned any of the Dreamcast magazines. And I love demos. Like I'm obsessed with the PS1 demo discs because I love all the Net Your Rosie games. But So I never had any Dreamcast ones, so I picked up a handful. And the thing that's really sort of stuck out at me, and I really want to get it now, is I played the demo for Sega Extreme Sports, and that's really like well realized series of sports. Like I didn't think that they'd all be very enjoyable. I thought some of them would fall down a little bit, but like that whole sort of like relay heats where you're like bit of an ATV, bit of a skiing or whatever it is. I was just like, yeah, this is really cool. I really like this. So yeah, again,
it looks really good as well.
The hang gliding was completely broken, but all the other events were pretty good.
No, it's just one of those things I hadn't really got around to. And again, demo disc saving the day. I love the fact that you can just check something out that you wouldn't normally go and have a look at and find something interesting like that. So that was really fun. And then recent, I bought Resident Evil Revelations 2 on PS4 because I really liked the first one on 3DS, and yeah, it seemed more like a more horror-esque. So I've been enjoying that quite a lot. It's nice and snappy.
Did you play Resident Evil 7, the demo?
I don't have PS Plus, so I wasn't savvy to that, unfortunately. But I'm excited for it because it's more horror, so that's what I want from a Resi game. So
there's another horror game on the PS4 called is it? Not Faces of Eve. No, it's like you walk around a mansion and there's like paintings that change. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, what's it called?
Top of my head now, but that looks quite interesting.
If anybody remembers what it is, like I would love that recommendation. So
send it us on a postcard.
PO box.
Cool. All right. Thanks for that, Lewis. I'll just quickly run through what I've been doing. I've been playing a game on the PS4 called Metro Last Light Redux.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I've got that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I loved the original on the 360. I thought it was amazing. So this is the sequel to Metro 2033. Just fantastic story-driven first-person shooter. Brilliant game. And also Darius Burst Chronicles Savior again on the Vita.
So playing the PC one myself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, there's so much content. It's fantastic. And on the Dreamcast, the only game I've picked up since the last episode we did is Wind and Water Puzzle Battles.
Oh, good man. Great choice. Really love that game.
It's such a good game. I'd never played it before. I mean, I'd read Aaron's articles from way back when it was first released, and so I knew of its existence. But when they re-released it, like last week or the week before, I thought, I'm having that straight away.
€10, wasn't it, as well? Like, really cheap.
Yeah, really, really good deal. And the production values are, stunning. It puts a lot of, like, official, air quotes, games to shame.
Definitely.
With the intro and the music and the story mode and everything like that. Hoping to get a developer interview up on the Dreamcast Junkyard with the guys from Yuan Works. I don't know how you pronounce
nice.
it.
Oh, wicked!
In the next couple of weeks, so that should be interesting. But yeah, that's what I've been doing on the retro and the modern consoles. But I think that's enough about what we've been doing. Let's come to our main topic of discussion, and we'll start that after this break.
Rolling Stone!
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little interlude there that I stole from YouTube. Now we're going to talk about our main topic, and that is racing games. The Dreamcast has an absolute ton of racing games. I think, apart from action adventure games, the racing genre must be the most well represented on the Dreamcast. Mike, I asked you earlier about how many there were, and I think you said there were 55, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So between 50 and 60 different racing games on the Dreamcast, so there's a lot to choose from. And Ross was also kind enough to basically troll the internet and find every single racing game, we think, for the Dreamcast.
And some more that you didn't agree with.
Yeah, some more that... When we did the fighting podcast and the shmup cast, you included things that clearly weren't in that genre.
I'm just covering all the bases.
Yep.
In case someone on Reddit was like, "That's not a racing game, me." So I did take a few of them out. For example, I didn't think Wild Metal really was classed as a racing game.
No. To be honest, I wasn't sure if the topic was driving games or racing games. But yeah, you're right. So it's racing. Right. So that's not. Shouldn't count, should it? No.
Well, fair enough. I mean, you do kind of drive a tank, so technically you were right. I didn't really think of it in that sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a list like we did in the other previous themed episodes of all the different racing games on the Dreamcast. This is quite a long list, so I'm going to put a nice little music bed under this just to make it less monotonous, because I know that my voice isn't the most silky smooth to listen to. What are those videos where, on YouTube where people like do these like audio sensory?
Oh, ASMR, yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to get away with that. So, right, I'm going to begin. Okay, so the list begins thus: 4-Wheel Thunder, 4x4 Evolution, 18-Wheeler American Pro Trucker, Aqua GT, Buggy Heat, or TNN Motorsports Hardcore Heat, Kart Flag to Flag, or Super Speed Racing, Crazy Taxi and Crazy Taxi 2, again, they're more driving than racing, but I kept them in, Daytona USA 2001, Demolition Racer No Exit, Densha de Go 2, Ducati World, Exhibition of Speed, F1 World Grand Prix 1 and 2, F1 Racing Championship, F355 Challenge, or Ferrari Challenge, Hydro Thunder, Jeremy McGrath Supercross 2000, Le Mans 24 Hours, Looney Tunes Space Race, Magforce Racing, Metropolis Street Racer, Monaco Grand Prix, Monaco Online, Pen Tri Isolon, Pod Speed Zone, Revolt, Redline Racer or Suzuki All-Star Extreme Racing, Ripping Riders, Cool Borders, Burn, Snow Surfers, all the same game, Roadsters, Rush Rally Racing, San Francisco Rush 2049, Sega GT, Sega Rally, Shenmue because it contains Hang On, and Shenmue 2 because apparently it contains duck races, Hang On and Outrun.
Duck races.
Snowcross Racing Championship, or Polaris Snowcross, South Park Rally, Speed Devils Online, Spirit of Speed 1937, Star Wars Racer, Stunt GP, Surf Rocket Racer, Super Runabout, Taxi 2, Test Drive 6, V-Rally 2 Expert Edition or Test Drive V-Rally, Tokyo Extreme Racer 1 and 2, Tokyo Bus Guide, Tokyo Bus, I'm gonna murder this, sorry Ross, Anai Bijin Bug Guide Tenju.
Perfect.
Waiting for approval there.
Manchester twinned with Tokyo once again. Tokyo Racer, Toy Racer, Vanishing Point, Wacky Races, Walt Disney World, Magical Quest, Sega Extreme Sports, Yu Suzuki Game Works Volume 1, because again that contains Hang On, Outrun and Power Drift, Zusa Vassar, and Trick Style. There's a couple of other ones that you added on at the end, which are kind of racing games with limited control for the player.
Or no control at all, yeah.
Yeah, or no control at all. Animastar, I've never heard of that one before.
Animastar, I think it is, yeah. Animastar. Animastar, like Animal Master. Animastar.
Oh, okay, cool. Again, Shenmue 2 Duck Races. Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 KO Races, or Chow Races, sorry. Winning Post 4, Program 2000. Derby to... I'm murdering them.
Derby
horse racing,
was it?
Basically.
Oh, horse racing games.
Derby or 2, I think it is called.
Horse racing 2.
Or Derby Dead 2 or something like that.
Yeah, so that's quite the list. I mean, there's some really good games there, and there's some utter trash as well.
Yeah.
What we're going to do here for you, the listener, is if you listen to the Shmup episode and also the Fighting episode, what we did was we go around the table and we each choose, first of all, our honourable mention racing game, then we choose our least favourite, and then we choose our favourite, so we end up on a high note. And before we go into that and go around the table, I just wanted to ask you guys 2 questions, really. The first one is, where do we stand on race controllers? I mean, does anybody use a steering wheel when they play racing games?
Sometimes.
Or do you prefer... Yeah, I mean, do you have the official one or a third-party one?
I got a 6, I think.
6?
Yeah.
What?
You know, I'm like Tom. I'm a little bit of an obsessive.
No, I've got the one. I've got the official race wheel, the one without the pedals.
Yeah,
and I do really like it because it's got the tension. You know, where it's got the little elastic band inside. So when you turn, it's kind of like it's not exactly force feedback, but it kind of gives you a bit of a pull in the opposite direction.
It's very light, though, isn't it? A very light controller. Doesn't have any weight to it.
Is that why you got 6? So you can weight.
That's why I got 6. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just stack them on top of each other.
Oh yeah.
Lewis, do you want to play with a race controller?
I actually don't. Like, I've always been quite. If I play games, it's always with like standard controllers. I like face buttons and things like that. I've never really explored sort of steering wheel controllers, and to be honest with you, I don't really have the space.
No, I'm the same. The one game that I will say actually is enhanced by a racing controller, in my opinion, is Super Speed Racing or Kart Flag to Flag.
Yeah.
From the internal viewpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't have that many harsh turns to take because it's all oval shaped.
You don't turn right, do you?
No, so you've only got the one direction to turn in. But I just thought it really added something because you feel like you're actually in the cockpit with the steering wheel. It's really really good. The other question I wanted to ask you as well is, are there any games that Sega didn't bring to the Dreamcast that you thought maybe should have had Dreamcast updates?
What, Dreamcast family games?
Anything that was like maybe on a Saturn, for example. I mean, the couple of games that stand out for me that I would really have liked to have seen on the Dreamcast are Manx TT or Hang On 95.
I think the big one for me is Scud Race. Never got a port. I've never got.
Especially since they did that demo of it, that like tech demo of actually porting the graphics over. It's a real shame they didn't actually go ahead and make it as a launch title.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic.
I'd also say Daytona USA 2.
Yes, good shout.
Because I was quite disappointed that they just remade the original one again. I really wanted them to bring that version over because it's got that ridiculous level of like the devil jumps down on the track and stuff. It's really weird.
Yeah, that was a shame.
We did get the Naomi 2 Initial D game. We got one Initial D game on PS2, which I think was a combination of 2 of the arcade games. And then there was a separate one on PSP, which was a different arcade game. And we also got the sequel to 18-Wheeler. That was it called?
King of Route 66.
King of Route 66. That's it. Yeah, that came to PS2.
That game is weird.
I didn't even know there was a sequel to 18-Wheeler.
I don't know if it's like officially a sequel, but it's definitely a spiritual successor.
It is a sequel.
Oh, is it?
It had a PAL release on PS2, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, it only had PAL and US release. It didn't come out in Japan, unfortunately. I don't know why.
I was going to make a really bad joke and say I thought the sequel would be called 19-Wheeler. Anyway, my crap jokes aside, let's move on to the main meat of our episode this time round, and we're going to talk about our favourite and our least favourite racing games. Let's begin with our honourable mentions. And I'm going to start with our guest.
Okay,
that's you, Lewis. What's your honourable mention? Which game do you really like but wouldn't consider your favourite?
So I was tired on this one. I was thinking either V-Rally 2 or what I've gone for, and what I've gone for is Buggy Heat. Because I really like Buggy Heat. I think it feels like a Sega game, despite the fact that it isn't developed by a Sega studio at all. It's not in-house, I don't think.
Yep.
That's true, yeah.
I love off-road races as well. Like, that's a big thing for me. It doesn't have the problem that I don't quite like with Sega Rally 2, where it's really drifty to the point that you're on, like, an easy corner, and you think, easy right, like, I shouldn't have to, like, move the joystick too much to compensate for that. Nope, you just drift straight into the bloody wall. Always gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
Whereas Buggy Heat's like handling model's really sort of tight but at the same time there's a bit of a looseness to it to give it that sort of off-road feel, which I really like.
Just turn off the sound effects. That screeching. Oh, it's horrendous. I only just recently bought this game, actually. And the screeching sound effects are horrendous.
It doesn't bother me too much. I mean, it's retro games. It's always the way, isn't it? Sound isn't particularly high up the list of things to deal with. But I really like Buggy Heat. I think it's as an arcade off-road racer, I think it really does quite well. And again, it feels so much like a Sega arcade game. I'm surprised that it wasn't developed by Sega themselves or an in-house, studio that they'd own.
I think it's got a really interesting. There's a really interesting view that it has, where you go into first-person mode and you can have the little camera looking into the cockpit, where you can see you changing gears and doing the acceleration.
I always use a third-person view, so like I haven't noticed that before. Oh, I'm going to go and play it afterwards.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's like a little picture
cool.
in the corner, isn't it?
Lovely little idea.
Cool. Yeah,
I like the name of some of the cars as well. In the one called Dank Schrenker, I'm like, what the hell? Who came up with that?
Hopefully me.
Yeah, there's some cracking names for vehicles in that game. Good choice. I'm quite a fan of the game as well. It was one of the first games I ever had for the Dreamcast.
Oh, right, okay.
It was a launch title, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was here
It was
anyway.
a complete sort of chance pick up, to be honest with you. I saw it sort of cheap kicking around on eBay. Like, it's not, my version's incomplete. It's only got the cover and the disc. But to be honest, I buy to play, so I'm never too bothered about having it complete. And it really surprised me. Really sort of blew me away a little bit.
Good choice to kick things off. Okay, let's move on to the next person. Aaron, I'm going to come to you next. What's your honourable mention?
Okay, mine will be Le Mans 24 Hours. I think, or Test Drive Le Mans in America. Yeah, absolutely stunning game. Really quite blown away by it when it first came out. I might have got it about a year after, but
is it the same studio that built Toka, isn't it? I've got that incorrect.
No, it's not. It feels like a Codemasters game, but it's not. It's Melbourne House.
Oh, okay. It really does feel like a Codemasters
Australian game.
Yeah, it is, and it was published by, was it Infogrames?
Oh, that might be why I'm...
Yes,
yeah.
It is really similar to Toka, though. Toka Race Driver, it feels just like a Cody's racing game.
It was one of the first games I played. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah,
one of the first games I saw that the visuals really are the standout thing for me. Yeah. I'm not really too keen on the handling or anything like that, but it was one of the first games I saw where the brake discs actually glow within the wheel as I go past on the replays. I was just like, wow!
Yeah, that really stood out back then. Like, it was kind of like, you don't see that often. Or you didn't then. All these things that you take for granted now that are just in every racing game. Yeah. Like, they were slowly getting introduced around, that era. So, yeah. One thing I really liked about it is how many options there are to change how you play it. Like, if you don't really want to play it realistically, you can play it like more arcade-like, and you can like add like things to make it a bit easier for you. Or if you want to make it so every time you touch a corner you break down, you can as well. And of course there's the proper full Le Mans mode where you can have it all running in real time.
We don't talk about that.
Do we, Mike? After that little story.
No.
I just thought that was kind of incredible, and I've put quite a few hours into that game. My other honourable mention would have been Sega Rally 2, but I think this has just edged it out. So,
for those people listening who don't know what we're talking about, Mike started the 24-hour full race and saved after 8 hours of racing, and his save didn't actually save.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. What do you get? What do you get if you complete the 24-hour race? Does it unlock anything, or do you just
sense of satisfaction, Ross? Sense of satisfaction.
Thank you for playing. And then just resets.
Bugger off.
Excellent. Good choice there, Aaron. Okay, moving on. I'm going to come to you next, Mike. What's your honourable mention?
So this was really difficult for me because I've narrowed it down to 10, and I'm going to pick... I'm a big fan of sports racing games, so like motorsports, Le Mans and like Formula 1 games. But I'm going to completely go against that and pick Wacky Racers as my honourable mention.
Hey! That is a good one.
I love
That's
Wacky
a good
Racers.
It's so good.
It's the greatest cartoon to video game adaptation I've ever seen.
It's
Perfect.
really well done.
I think one of the main outstanding things for me was, even though it looks amazing, and that is a big part of the appeal for me, it's that the size of the main campaign.
Yes,
it's on a par with something like Diddy Kong Racing.
That whole open world like HUD you've got, it's almost like something out of like a Rare game or something.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, if you want to expand on why you chose it.
Growing up watching Wacky Racers on TV, I've played a few different Wacky Racers games, and there was one on the Game Boy, was there? If I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And none of them really did it right. This one, first time I played it, I could just tell straight away it was the right game. You got widescreen mode, so it looks amazing now as well. I know that not everyone likes to have their games stretched on their display, but the black outline around characters gives like a Jet Set Radio sort of look to it as well.
I think it actually beat Jet Set Radio to the punch when it comes to cell shading. I think they added it like at the last minute just so they would be the first out the door to have cell shading on the Dreamcast. Yeah. If I remember rightly, because when they first showed it off, it didn't have cell shading.
And didn't it come out afterwards on a different system and didn't have? No, I'm getting confused with Fur Fighters, which came out after on the PS2 and had cell shading.
That's right.
It did come out. Wacky Racers did come out on PS2, and I think they may have added some content, but yeah.
I think it's quite different on a PS2 or a console. I think it's the same as Le Mans, which is like the other versions of Le Mans. Don't have anything like the same quality. I think with Wacky Racers, I think it's made by Infogram's Sheffield House, which I think is old Gremlin guys.
Yeah, I think quite a few people that went on to form Sumo Digital actually made this game. So yeah, a lot of the people that made Wacky Races did All Stars Racing.
It's the precursor to Sega All Stars Racing. Case closed.
The thing is as well, I mean, the one thing about Wacky Races as well that stuck with me is just how authentic it is to the cartoons, because you've got all the I don't know if they're all the original voice cast, but it sounds very similar. And you've also got people like, you've got Greg Proops in there as the commentator. And
if anything, it's actually animated a bit better than the cartoon.
Yeah, to be honest. Hanna-Barbera was never known for its... move. Okay, that's a fantastic choice. I'm really interested to find out what your favourite is after that. Let's move on to Ross. Ross, what's your honourable mention?
It's a bit of a cheat because it's like a few games in one. We've already mentioned it briefly on the list. Yu Suzuki Gameworks.
The truth.
Because, it's got Outrun, it's got Power Drift, and also Hang On. All of them are fantastic games, and they're the best ports on any system of those games. Like, the Sega Saturn did have a good port of Outrun, but it ran at 30 frames per second, whereas this one runs at 60. I think the same case goes for Power
I think the
Drift.
Saturn one did actually have a cheat code that would let you unlock 60 frames.
The Japanese version does, yeah.
It does,
but it's not by default.
It does, but then doesn't it take some compromise? It compromises on something else so that it can do 60 frames.
I think it removes all the trackside sprites or something.
It does something, because otherwise, why would it not just be in there?
Yeah, true.
Maybe for the authenticity of the original arcade one, maybe, because the original was 30, so possibly.
Well, anyway, it's 60 frames per second, but mostly it's for Power Drift, because I think not enough people have played this game, and it's the pinnacle of sprite scaling games, in my opinion. That and Galaxy Force. I mean, not in terms of gameplay, Outrun and Afterburner are definitely better games, but in terms of what they managed to do with the sprite scaling, they've put so many sprites in there and done so many clever tricks, but it almost looks like a 3D game.
I don't know if you've played the 3DS ports of these games, but I really recommend those. Yeah, they're amazing.
Those,
Galaxy Force and Power. I haven't played Power Drift yet because it hasn't come out here yet. But
I do have Power Drift on the Saturn, and I think it's a great game. I haven't played the Yu Suzuki Gameworks one. There is a game though on the TurboGrafx which is quite similar, and I can't remember what it's called for the life of me now.
I think they did actually port Power Drift.
Is it just Power
Drift? I'm pretty sure they did.
There is Power Drift on TurboGrafx, but it's not anywhere near arcade perfect.
I think in the case of Power Drift, the Saturn one was 30 and then the Dreamcast one was 60 as well, so if I remember rightly.
That Suzuki Gameworks is really expensive now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I got quite lucky. I think I picked that up before it jumped in price.
Yeah, I don't actually own it, but I just played it on my my GD-ROM. What's it called?
GDMU.
What's it called? GDMU. Yeah. So I don't own it myself, but I recommend anyone just download it if you can't afford it. It's a great game. And especially Power Drift, like the stages, like almost resemble like roller coasters, and so colourful, and it's just really.
I actually
cool
got a chance to play the cab because they had it at the. What was the bloody thing I was at? Gateshead, the event that they had recently. I'm trying to remember the bloody name of it now.
Yeah, I saw the photo.
But yeah, like I've never. Yeah, Nerg, that was it. Thank you. Really, really nice to play it with like steering wheel and stuff. It's a lot more responsive.
Was it the cabinet that actually moved
No,
around
it was a stand-up one.
It was a stand-up one. Oh, okay. Yeah, still, that's pretty cool.
Did they have Radmobile there?
They didn't, unfortunately. That was a little bit disappointing. But they did have the big wraparound 3-screen Ferrari F355 Challenge, which is always interesting to play.
I remember when those were everywhere in arcades, and now you can't find it at all.
Yeah, they had one. They had one at the Trafford Centre at Namco Station. They also had one of those big rigs, for 18-wheeler. That was really cool.
Yeah, they're still all over the place.
Taking a step back earlier, we were talking about games that never got ported to a Dreamcast. You just reminded me of one, F355 2 on the Naomi. I've never even seen one in real life. They can't have made them in.
Was it just like an
that
expansion
large
or
numbers? But it never got a port to anything. No, I think it's new tracks and everything. I think so. I don't know much about it, to be honest. But I don't think it's just an expansion. Yeah, definitely still just one car, I think.
There you go, listeners. If you can remember which was the name of the PlayStation 4 game with the paintings that move, and also the tracks for F55, put that at the bottom of the postcard when you send it in, and we'll have a look. Cool. Okay.
PO Box 9999.
Yeah. Moving on. My choice for honourable mention. I have to admit, probably the same as you guys. This was really tough because there's that many decent, really good racing games on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I've gone for Hydro Thunder.
Oh, good choice.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good game. Yeah.
When I got my Dreamcast right in the very early days, that was a game that I picked up randomly, and I just played the hell out of it because it was amazing. It was just like, it just looks so good and plays so well. And as a pure arcade experience, it's hard to beat. Yeah. Obviously, there's not that much longevity to it because you basically just race like from point A to point B, and pick up the turbos as you go around the track. And if you miss one, you're like, oh god, that's it, I'm screwed now.
Yeah, definitely.
So you basically just have to hold down the boost button. Yeah, certainly the later tracks are definitely, but just the whole like bombastic in your face like. 3, 2, 1, go, go, go!
Fire the torpedoes!
Yeah, it's just like...
You're crazy!
It's just a stupid throwaway game that just showed off how much of a leap ahead
it's
of like...
the most midway game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's up there with like Total Carnage is like one of the most midway games.
It's outrageous,
That's what I miss about Midway,
It was ported to other systems, but I don't think either the PS1 or the N64 versions look or play anywhere near as good as the Dreamcast.
PS2 version as well because it's a part of Midway Arcade Treasures
Yes.
3.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And that's actually a little bit disappointing. I think the Dreamcast version is the best version.
That's
going.
right.
It was on Xbox
360
Live.
got a release. Yeah.
It was on Xbox Live as well.
The PS1 version was handled by a completely different team, and even though it's got the same tracks and everything, it plays really differently.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like
So they had to rebuild it or something.
It's like a weird analogue of Hydro Thunder made by someone who's never played it but watched a video of Hydro Thunder being played.
Wow.
If you know what I mean.
Was that by Eurocom? Or
No, it was
like
by
that?
a completely different team. It's on the shelf over there. I can see it from here, but it's too far away for me to grab, so I'm not going to bother.
Courage.
Yeah, so that's my choice, Hydro Thunder.
Great sequel as well, Tom. The sequel to Hydro Thunder on the 360.
Which one's that?
Hydro Thunder Hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing game.
And then there was that spiritual sequel in arcades, wasn't there? H2 Overdrive.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good as well. Yeah, awesome. Arcade only, but yeah, it's like raw thrills.
Brilliant. Interesting stuff. Okay, guys, that'll bring us to the end of our first round, and we'll come back after this brief interlude to talk about our least favourite racing games.
I am looking forward to this.
Okay, welcome back to episode 36 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. We're talking about racing games, and in this section we're going to talk about our least favourite examples of the genre. Let's jump straight in. I'm going to come back to you again, Lewis, for your least favourite.
Right.
Let's have it.
Okay, Spirit of Speed 1937, straight out.
Excellent choice.
Easily.
What a stinker.
Knew it would come up. Didn't take long.
It's annoying as well because, like, I remember... So me and my family often have sort of like days out at Brooklands racetrack because they do like different events. They'll have like an Italian day where they'll have, you know, like everybody brings all the Ferrari collectors come down and stuff. All the Lancia collectors come down and they show off their cars, and that's always really good fun. I've always loved going to Brooklands and things, and that made me aware of Spirit of Speed 1937 because there's a recreation of the original Brooklands track, because nowadays the Brooklands racetrack is all cut up and things because they had to bury certain parts of it because it was all sort of white concrete and it was visible via the air. So during wartime they had to break up the track and bury it under mud and stuff, and it destroyed loads of it, and now it's incomplete.
That's quite interesting.
So Spirit of Speed 1937 has a complete recreation of the original track and the original circuit layout and things, which was exciting in my head, but in practice this is the most boring racing game because it's all obviously, you know, retro cars and things, and none of them can brake within like 30 miles an hour, so it's just dull. Like, why would you bother like making a racing game so boring? And it's all this weird half hybrid between sort of like a simulation and an arcade game. It's trying its hardest to be somewhat entertaining, but at the same time, because it's so bastard slow, it's just like really can't be asked like to bother with this. It's such a shame.
It is, and one of the other things about the game is that it's just inherently broken, like from the get-go. I mean, when you first put it in and you start playing it, and you've got all this kind of like 1920s music and this aesthetic of like Art Deco, you know, menus, and you think
that stuff's really nice.
Yeah, this is really cool. You know, you've got this like trumpet, like Glenn Miller style music, and you know, and you think, oh, I've got these like all these like licensed cars, all these like Alfa Romeos and Bugattis from like the era that the game is from. Like you say, Lewis, all the authentic racetracks, and then when you actually start playing it, and you're just like, this is bad, very bad. What's gone wrong? One of the most telling things that I saw when I recently actually featured this it was a top 10 worst games on the Dreamcast for the Dreamcast Junkyard. One of the things that I noticed when I was actually playing this game was when you're racing against, you know, if you've got like one other adversary on the track, they will like speed off into the distance because they don't actually need to adhere to like the rules of, you know, physics or anything like that. They just kind of fly off into the distance, and you're kind of languishing at like 20 miles an hour behind them. But you can still see the tire marks on the track of the other cars. So when they get to a corner, because they're going too fast and the game engine isn't designed for them to brake that well, they just kind of smash off the corners, spin around, and carry on. And you can see the tyre tracks at every corner of the cars.
You can see when the like circle bits. Oh my god!
So, at one point,
you can tell they're cheating.
At one point, I actually caught up to one of the other cars, or he lapped me or something. It just happened to be at a corner. He smashed into the corner, spun around, and then carried off into the distance like that.
Wow!
So try it yourself, folks. Get lapped on Spirit of Speed and watch the hilarity unfold. Yeah,
it's quite special in how terrible it is.
It is, yeah. No, is there anything else you want to
add?
No,
not particularly. Just don't experience it.
Don't even
it's like it's one of those things. Like when people talk about, oh, you know, this modern game or whatever that came out in like 2015 or whatever is a bad game. Generally, like most modern games released, you know, in boxes, are mediocre at best. They're not bad. When you play something like this, it totally gives you the experience of what is actually a bad game. This is like the yardstick that you should use for bad games.
What made me laugh as well with that game is how it was made by Acclaim, but in America they just thought, you know what, let's just pull out that old LJN brand just one last time for the first time in yonks. Let's just slap that on there just to warn people.
Got such a great
it's like
reputation.
they warned people by putting that on there. I mean, when it came out in the UK, it was just Acclaim, and for some reason this game came out in Japan as well.
Mike, didn't you have some facts about it, Mike, a few episodes ago? It sold like 87 copies or something. 36 copies in Japan.
Yeah,
wow.
That's what. Yeah, I've got the the book that lists it as only selling 36 copies.
Have you got
or
the game,
whatever
though, Ross? The Japanese version?
I've got the game.
Oh,
it cannot be that rare. It cannot be.
It should have a number on it. Limited edition.
I got it for like 2,000 or 3,000 yen. It wasn't a cheap game, but unless there really are only 36 copies, but it's just so bad that you can't pay someone to.
But I think it was 36 sold at full price, wasn't it? So they probably shipped loads into a container.
What you should do, Ross, is you should launch some kind of campaign on social media to unite all the other people who've got copies.
Yeah, totally.
A bit like that one that was done for Shaq Fu, where they got as many copies of Shaq Fu together as they could. You should do that with Spirit of Speed.
What, and destroyed them? Excellent. Let's move on from Spirit of Speed 96. I'm sure this game's going to come up again as we go around the table, but let's move on to Aaron.
So my one is Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour. I've got a little story about this one. Back in 2000, I actually went to Disney World, and in Epcot, they've got like a section called Innovations, where they have all like latest technology and all this kind of stuff. They actually had a Sega Dreamcast area with the big Sonic Adventure statue that was used at E3. And most of the demo pods had this game on it.
Oh.
It's like, latest technology.
Oh,
look at these amazing Dreamcast games. And most of them had this on it. And I picked it up a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. And my God, this is probably one of the worst Mario Kart clones I've ever played. I was playing it again earlier, and it's just horrendous. Not even going into the gameplay straight away. I'll just go into the character selection. Like, it's a Disney game. Why is it mostly made up characters? It's got Chip and Dale, Jiminy Cricket, yeah, fair enough. And then you've got characters like Oliver Chickley III and Otto Plugnut and Mo Whiplash, and you're like, why get the license? Why get the Disney license and then just make a load of characters up? And some of them look like bootleg versions of actual characters, so it makes you wonder why they bothered. That's not even the worst of it.
Could that be something to do with, like, you know how there was Mickey's Speedway on the N64 around the same time?
It could be
yeah.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, that might actually be a good point. But like, the game just is horrendous. It does not play well at all. It's like everything that people don't like about Mario Kart, all the cheap weapons and stuff, but like ramped up to 50. It's just clunky. The drifting feels awful. Like, you just find yourself bumping into things all the time. The graphics are just, there's a lot of PS1 ports on the Dreamcast, and a lot of them don't look that much different. They're just smoother. But this game's so blocky and wonky. Everything looks like it's tearing apart, and the frame rate dips to like 10 half the time.
It's trying to rip itself apart. It seems put itself out of its own misery. No,
and it's a terrible advert for Disney World as well, because it looks so bad. Everything looks like it's made of cardboard. Yeah. Like, it does not sell the park at all. In fact, it would put you off going there, because it makes you think it looks like, there was a Chinese knockoff version of Disney World, like they actually made a fake park with like a big wonky castle. It looks like that. It just looks like a horrible cheap knockoff of
Dismaland.
Great game.
Yeah, it looks like Dismaland. Yeah, that's what this may as well be. It's a Dismaland game. It's just...
Little story I've got about this game is a couple of months ago, I had a load of people around and we got the Dreamcast out to play 4-player.
Oh, you didn't put this on.
One of the games, I was looking for some 4-player racing games, so we played a bit of V-Rally, we played a bit of Wacky Races, and then we played a bit of this, and after it was literally about 5 minutes, everyone was just like, we didn't know where the track went, everyone was just kind of banging into walls, everyone was just like, this isn't fun.
I can't even imagine what the frame rate's like in split screen. I can't even imagine, because it struggles on one player, so I can't even imagine what split screen's like. It must be 2 frames per second.
It was everyone had already had a few drinks, it was good, like, everyone was having a good laugh, and then this has completely killed it. Everyone was just like, no, I don't want to play this anymore. Turn it off.
I'm sure you don't want to be Chiara Damage or Bruno Biggs, the obese Mickey Mouse fanboy. Yeah, so I know there are definitely games that are worse than this, but in terms of games that are a disappointment based on the brand, because Disney games at one point were really good, mainly in like Mega Drive and SNES era.
Yeah.
But you just it's like the ultimate cheap cash-in terms of like, when you compare it to stuff like Wacky Races and Looney Tunes Space Race and stuff like that, it's just so cheap and nasty. It's awful. I hate it. I was getting angry with it earlier. I'll put it in just to confirm. And I was like, oh my God, I can't stand it. I can't even beat like the first few levels.
All right, then. Let's move on to Mike. What's your least favourite?
I got so many to choose from, Tom. So many to choose from. But the winner by a country mile is Ducati World. It is the most horrendous piece of shit I've ever played in my life. You can drive up walls. That's it. I leave it at that. That's the entire thing.
Mike, can I just say you take that's you take it.
It's bloody atrocious. Look amazing. It has this like Gran Turismo style sort of career mode, which seems really promising. And you get into the game, and it just fails at every single thing it tries to do. Everything. The graphics are terrible. It makes Walt Disney World Magical Quest look like the greatest game ever made. It has sound which just seems like it's made by people banging some kind of tin instrument. Yeah. Exactly.
That's the sound effect.
The tracks are terrible. The textures look like they've just been drawn by a 4-year-old. There's no quality control in the game at all. I spent years and years defending the makers of the game, which I think is name actually. What's it called? Attention to Detail, which made Sydney 2000 as well.
Oh, that's not.
And I like Sydney 2000. I always liked it, and I just played this game, and no, I hate them.
There was an interesting comment somebody made on the Facebook group a few weeks ago about Ducati World. I've not actually tried this myself, but apparently in the game, if you activate the rear view, to look back at the track behind you, even though the riders might be right behind you on the little map, they're not there in the rear view.
I wouldn't surprise me.
The game doesn't even render them.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
It's just terrible. The game has no... It doesn't make any sense. The game has no... If some of the career bits are in there, brilliant. Anyone who's got the patience to go through more than one race of that game and get to the rest of the career mode, they have my utmost respect, because it is the most... It's fucking terrible.
Oh yeah, it's a challenge.
They actually put that game on one of the official Dreamcast demo discs on the magazine. Like one of the late issues actually had that as one of the 3 or 4 demos.
Maybe that's why
on that
Sega
disc.
fucking failed for them.
To put people off. That's the only... I haven't actually played the full game. I've only ever played that demo. And I was like, why would you put this on a disc? No one's going to buy this now that they've played it. Because, it didn't have any music either. So all you had was that farty noise that the bike makes. And just, falling over, fumbling about. It's like, why would you put this on a demo? There were so many bad games on demos. It was like it would put you off buying them.
It's bad enough to be interesting to play. It's like Big Rigs or whatever it's called, the PC game, which is just broken.
Oh god!
It's the kind of game which you have to experience at least once, just to climb the fucking wall on your motorbike. Just once.
That's my memory. I only ever played the demo, and this was when I was probably 15 years old, I guess. And at the time, I'd get a demo disc, and me and my mates, we'd play them, and we'd play those demos to death. Every single one. I can't remember ever thinking, oh, a game was so terrible. But when we turned on Ducati, we played 1 or 2 laps, and as we slid towards the edge of the road, our bike started going parallel, driving parallel on the wall, and it went up the wall and then back down the wall and onto the road again, and we were like, what? We were laughing our asses, what is this crap? I can't believe
we
this
played that game Stun Runner, where you can spin around the tunnels inside, or F-Zero X, where you just kind of spin around.
Roll cage or something like that.
It's like that, but it's not sloped, so it's like a right angle, the road, and then a straight wall, and your bike is upright. Oh, now it's a 90-degree angle.
The riders fall off in comical fashions as well, if I remember rightly.
Definitely, that was my favourite thing about the demo, was just making them crash over and over again.
The rider will just stand still whilst the motorbike drives off. I don't understand. The game's broke. To beat the other games that are terrible on Dreamcast, one's been mentioned already. There's a couple more which I hope someone mentions. To be worse than those games takes an achievement. I hat off to the game.
And again, it's got that big brand by it,
they spent all the money on the
brand,
brand,
and you think, and then is that why we haven't had any other Ducati games since or something?
There is one on DS actually, Ducati Motos. So I don't know what that's like, mind, but
it took them years to go right. Should we actually dare to get someone to make another game? Hopefully, they won't fuck it up this time.
I would say it couldn't be any worse, but I've played some pretty terrible games on a DS, racing games on a DS.
What's interesting about Ducati World though is up to the release. I remember, in fact, I've actually looked back through the magazines, and there are quite a few magazines. The official Dreamcast magazine, Paragon Publishing's Dreamcast magazine.
Oh, yeah.
They have big features, and they also have developer interviews with the team.
Bloody
and
hell.
they're actually quite positive in the promotion of the game, even though it looks like shit in the screenshot.
I don't think the reviews were that bad either, were they? There's a couple of magazines gave them sort of medium reviews.
Oh no, the review I looked at yesterday gave it like 30 something, said it was terrible. So
isn't that just sort of like games journalism in a nutshell though? When they've got the previews, they're like, oh yeah, this will probably be all right, honest, and then they get to the review and then they just slag it off.
Well, especially if you're an official magazine, you kind of you really do have to sort of like not tread on people's toes until it gets to release.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I actually have a
definitely.
copy of this and I've never played it, so I'm totally playing it afterwards.
Oh boy.
yeah,
You're
definitely.
in for a treat.
Yeah, you're definitely
Tuck in.
Okay, brilliant choice. So that was your choice as well, wasn't it, Ross?
It was my choice, but I'll just mention I played it for the first. I don't know much about it, so I won't talk too long. But I played it for the first time today. Pods 2, absolutely bloody awful. It looks
I
like
was
a bad
debating
Saturn
over
game.
Walt Disney World and that. It's so dull.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely
so dull.
awful. Controls are terrible. Yeah, just grey. It doesn't look like a Dreamcast game. It looks like a launch PS1
The
game
thing
or
with Pod
something.
2,
It's
I
just
think
terrible.
the main gimmick was that it was online racing.
And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, online racing doesn't have to be bad. I mean, look at Toy Racer, that was all right.
The handling feels like it's deliberately made to counter lag. Same as Speed Devils, the online version of that, where did
they change it?
If you love Speed Devils, don't play online because it's just terrible. As in, don't play the online version.
I didn't realise they changed so much.
There's a lot of differences between Speed Devils and Speed Devils Online. There's loads of like random
didn't know
things as
that.
well. Like they've taken out like all the real time headlights and stuff like that. I mean, obviously,
Oh, really?
that probably wouldn't be. Obviously over a 33k modem in the UK anyway, playing a racing game at night with, 5 other people with real-time headlights probably would have been a bit of a struggle. But in the one-player mode, I can't see why they would have removed it. Anyway, that's another story. Yeah, so Pod is...
Pod's horrendous.
So I didn't even finish it. I didn't even finish the second lap. I think
I got through
this
one
is awful.
race and that was about it. And I was like, why do I own this? Why do I actually own this? It's going to end up...
Because we're sad,
It's going, I think.
compulsive Dreamcast collectors.
Isn't there like loads of content locked off unless you play it online?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a whole track that you can't play unless you sign up to their servers. So that's
But the
gone.
weird thing
Yeah,
with Pod
completely
is
gone.
the original Pod was designed to be sold with graphics cards to show off the sort of potential of graphics cards on a PC.
On
And
PC,
somehow-
Was it Voodoo or something like that?
I think it was Voodoo, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
'Cause-
I remember that.
I'm confusing it with Roll Cage. I thought Roll
No,
Cage
Roll Cage
was
is fantastic.
Roll Cage is brilliant. I thought was Pod as well also sold as.
Oh, there was a few because Ultimate Race Pro was as well.
Wasn't Screamer... We're going back now. Wasn't Screamer...
I love
a game?
Screamer.
Screamer.
Oh,
graphics cards as well. Hey, we're getting off topic.
Always
Getting
racing
off topic.
games. Always racing games. They're good tech demos
graphics
when they're
card.
not terrible games.
Racing special.
Yeah, the 90s graphics card special. Let's move on. I'll just give you a little bit of a spiel on my least favourite. It was quite tough, this, but I've gone for my old favourite, Exhibition of Speed.
Yes. Thank God for that.
I was going to pick this up
What a
recently.
disgusting game. Utterly disgusting. I think the best thing that I've ever seen with this game involved with it was I went to an event in Oxford about 2 years ago called ROM, and I was with a guy. I was talking to a guy who'd never played a Dreamcast before, and the game that he was playing was Exhibition of Speed. He was like, "This is rubbish." Like, I was like, "Mate, honestly, don't base your thoughts on the Dreamcast on this game." Literally,
No.
I can't explain how bad this game is. Where do I start? The graphics are ridiculously bad. The frame rate just like it randomly slows to a crawl for no reason.
I remember your video about it.
Yeah.
It just sort of like slows down and speeds back up again. It's
Exactly, yeah. The AI is just like really, really thick. It just like bunches up in corners. Like all the cars will bunch up in a corner because they can't reverse. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
And then I really don't know where to begin.
It's the most unwanted sequel of all time on Dreamcast.
Yeah, because it is obviously the sequel to Roadsters.
Which is also terrible.
Yeah. As well as that, there's like loads of like weird, like random, like almost casual racism thrown in. Like you've got characters like you've got like a French guy who's got like a beret and a baguette and like an Eiffel Tower in the background, and then you've got an American guy who's a cowboy. You know, obviously you've got to be a cowboy. The English guy is like an old man with a flat cap, and it's just like, why do you have to choose these characters?
Tried to give it character.
It's just I don't want to dwell on it for too long because it's actually depressing me. But if you want to play a bad game, it's Exhibition of Speed. It's a PAL only exclusive as well. Funny that.
Great.
Yeah, so those are the games that you should probably avoid. Oh, in fact, no. If you want to play them just for morbid curiosity, then please do, because some of them are quite hilarious. Obviously,
just burn them or something.
Yeah.
Don't bother actually buying a copy.
Yeah, the other ones that I was looking at,
I actually do kind of want to try this one now.
Yeah, please do.
Just to see how awful it is.
The other ones I want to give a sort of a mention to that I find are horrific examples of Dreamcast racing games are, again, which you chose, Lewis, Spirit of Speed. We've also got Roadsters, we've mentioned, but there's one called Jeremy McGrath Supercross 2000.
Yeah.
Which is, it was touch and go. It was touch and go between that and the Exhibition of Speed.
And Test Drive? Oh, no.
I've never played Test Drive 6, but I've heard it's bad.
I'd put Test Drive. I played it today for the first time.
Yeah,
I'd put that in there as well.
The thing with Jeremy McGrath, though, it's just got really, really bad frame rate. If the frame rate was better, it'd be a good game.
I don't know about that, mate.
I played that game a lot.
Have you ever seen the Game Boy Color port of Jeremy McGrath Supercross 2000?
Yes.
It's pre-rendered. So you're on a pre-rendered track that moves around. On the Game Boy Color and things. Yeah, it's quite bizarrely interesting in a weird way, but I don't know if it's actually a good game.
There was a lot of strange stuff like that on the Game Boy, wasn't there? Like very tech demo-y.
That sounds really interesting. I'm going to have a look at that.
Honestly, have a look at some footage on YouTube. It's quite interesting.
Cool. Okay, right, guys, let's move on to our final section of the podcast. We've looked at our honourable mentions. We've looked at the utter crap of the genre. But after we come back from this break, we will talk about the very pinnacle, or the pinnacles even, of the Dreamcast racing genre. Welcome back to episode 36 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. We're talking about racing games, as the last hour or so has probably hinted at. We're now going to talk about our favourite racing games, the ones that represent, the very upper echelons of the genre on the Dreamcast. And I'm not going to mess about. I'm going to come straight to you, Lewis. What is your favourite racing game on the Dreamcast?
Rush Rally Racing.
Oh,
I absolutely adore Rush Rally Racing. So I'm a big fan of the Micro Machine series. So it's an obvious comparison because it is a top-down racing game.
Yeah.
But what it really reminds me of, which I'm also a really big fan of, is Neo Drift Out on Neo Geo.
Yes.
Game. It's got a very similar handling
that's
model.
a good
It's got
one,
that lovely sort of you can whip the tail out, and it's got a lovely drift to it. It feels really nice. But it's very the handling model's really tight as well. It's actually quite for an off-road racer. It does a really good job, and there's lots of humour to it as well with all the cows and stuff. I really love all that daftness. It's just a really good time. It's one of those. It's one of the very few sort of independently released Dreamcast games that breaks the mold a little bit as well, because we're flooded with so many shoot 'em ups, and RPGs now seem to be quite heavy with the system, because we've got Legion Shadows coming out, and obviously we've had PS Solar and things. It's just nice to have something that's a little bit just different, and I think they must have really worked really hard on that handling model, because it is so satisfying to play. And it's one of those things that really blew me away. I didn't expect much of it, especially from a two-dimensional game. It's a lot of the independent games are like that, and they are quite limiting in a weird way. But at the same time, this felt like there's just a lot going for it. There's a really in-depth career mode.
It really feels like a Dreamcast game.
Definitely.
Like it's got Dreamcast all over it, even though it's like 2D in that. It's just everything about the gameplay really feels like some of the a lot of the arcade stuff that's
Absolutely.
on the Dreamcast.
I think it's a real disappointment that it's kind of limited to this system and WiiWare. Like, it feels like it should have been a bigger hit. It should be on Steam and stuff. And
Definitely.
Lots more people should be playing
exactly.
it.
They should try and bring that back.
I've never actually played it, but after listening to your description of the handling mod, I'm really tempted to try and get hold of it.
Oh, absolutely! You really should. It's such a good game.
I'm a big fan of like top-down rally games. I've got a game called Power Drive Rally on the Atari Jaguar, which
Power Drive on Mega Drive, which I'm not entirely sure is the same game, or not, but like, really fun game.
It is.
I think the Jaguar game is like a sort of a semi-sequel with slightly different tracks and things.
If you like that, you'll like Rush Rush Rally Racing. Honestly,
excellent.
Maybe we should request that Dragon Box finds a way to re-release it.
I still haven't had a chance to play Rush Rush Rally Racing yet either, because about 1 year ago, over a year ago, I ordered Rush Rush Rally Racing. You know, Goat Store, they had 4 independent
Fury
games.
and
I
stuff
ordered
like that.
those 4 and something else. And Feet of Fury, and there's some like sheep herding game, Herders, or
Cool Herders,
and a couple others. And I ordered all those Slave at the same time. And I thought I was going to get the games I ordered, and then later when Slave got released, which was apparently a month away from
because
release.
of the pre-order.
So they emailed me. They emailed me and said, "Oh, you've only paid 1 lot of postage. So would you like to pay extra postage for Slave on its own, or would you just like us to send them all together when we release Slave in a month or two's time?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can wait a month." I know, and it's like over a year later now, and I did message them about a month or 2 ago to say, look, I'm not complaining or anything, I'm happy to wait for Slave, but I'd rather have these games now.
Oh, that's
and they never replied to me.
They're really bad at replying. I've tried to change my address.
They never replied to me. Which I was like, I've already paid for these games, and they're just ignoring me. And then I completely forgot about it. So I did email them like a month or 2 ago, and then today we're doing the racing podcast, and I looked at Rush Rush Rally Racing online, and I remembered, they still haven't got back to me about that. So I emailed them again.
Oh, I hope they come through for you, Mal.
No reply yet, but
yeah.
If you're listening to this, Goat Store, email Ross.
Yeah, sort your shit out.
Email him.
Figure out.
Brilliant. Okay, so Rush Rush Rally Racing, good choice. Let's move on to Aaron. What's your favourite?
Crazy Taxi. I know. It's a game.
I was just about to say that.
It's not driving, it's travelling. But I was obsessed with this game when it came out. This is probably one of the top 5 games that I played the most on the Dreamcast. Like, absolutely addicted to it when it first came out. Like, got obsessed with it for a while. In fact, this is one of the few games that I've ever played so much on the Dreamcast that the analog stick actually gave me blisters on my thumb. Yeah, like I was playing it every day after high school, like for about 2 months straight.
It's such like it's such a product
game
of its time. I love how like it so encapsulates like 2000 era like stuff with all the brand deals and the soundtrack and the Offspring and things on it. It's just like you couldn't make that game now. It's so like it's
they tried on phones, but it didn't work.
I wonder how many people like became Offspring fans after playing Sega.
I think I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, I kind of did at the time. That definitely got me in. Yeah, that definitely got me into those bands, I'd say, at the time. But it kind of like the same thing I had with Sonic R when that came out. I just got obsessed with learning the layouts and like learning where everything is and just exploring, because obviously you've got like the 10-minute mode in Crazy Taxi, so I just use that to memorize where everything is and like just try and find the best routes and all this kind of stuff. And I got to this point where I was playing it and I was just picking up the same people in the same area for about an hour on like the arcade rule. I could play it for like an hour and a half before the time runs out because I remembered where everyone went. It was ridiculous.
I think that's a testament to how well designed it is, because I'm thinking about it now and
I
can think of the layout of like the first level where you start off and then you go around that little sort of left-hand turn and then you go down and then down again.
I'd almost argue
turn left.
that initial arcade level, I'd still argue that's the only good Crazy Taxi level, because the one they added to it had problems where the arrow would get stuck between the buildings. Crazy Taxi 2's levels were a bit. I mean, the jumping helped in that one, but again,
is it a Big Apple or something?
Like that first original arcade version's level is the perfect Crazy Taxi level. Everything after that feels like an afterthought. if that makes any sense.
There's lots of hidden stuff as well that you don't actually see unless you like kind of go to the right or left when you first start, like tennis courts and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you feel like it took me quite a while to realise that it's just a course. It's just a loop.
Yeah, it does all go round.
It took me like a good few hours of playing.
Yeah, it comes back round.
And when I went round, well, I think it took me round until I got good enough to actually manage to get all the way through it. And I was like, oh, I'm back here again. It's just a loop.
It probably took me a month to even find that, because I was just using a set route, and I was just going back and forth between like the church and the baseball court, and then the baseball court back to Pizza Hut or whatever it was. I was just using that route, and I think I got to the point where I just picked up everyone in that area, every green and yellow and, like all the shorter ones, and then I would move on to the city.
It's like an illusion, isn't it? Like an illusion of freedom, which is not really...
Yeah, it really isn't. You find yourself going back and forth to the same two buildings over and over and over and over and over again, just to keep that score going up. And I remember I actually had some techniques in the game that would get me like ridiculous money, like where I think it was Pizza Hut or one of the other restaurants, you could actually drift into it and sort of like lean to the side onto the building, and you could hang it there and just get tons of money.
Yeah,
and just before it goes under like speedy mode, you could just drop it down. You could like let go of when you want to drop it. And there's just so many. I can't play this game on any other console either. The way I have it, the way I do the drifting and the boosting on the Dreamcast, it's like a very specific hands.
It's like muscle memory
around the control.
Like muscle memory, yeah.
If I
can't do it on the arcade machine. I can't do it.
I've played it in the arcades and I'm terrible at it there. But if I play it on the Dreamcast, it's like second nature. And if I try to play it on like PS2 or GameCube or any of the other consoles it came out on, it's just not the same, because I can't do the. It's like I'm squeezing the controller every time I like do the crazy boost and stuff. It's a very specific.
Yeah, because you've got the crazy boost, and then you've got the limit boost or something. So you've got the crazy.
That, but yeah,
you got the crazy boost, which is like you press drive and accelerate at the same time, and you get a little boost. And then when you're at the height of that boost, if you press reverse drive and accelerate at the same time, then you get an extra boost.
Yeah, that's my grippy thing.
And on the arcade version, I couldn't do either of those
so
boosts.
Much harder.
And I was trying over and over again, like with different timings, and I was like, how does this work? I can't do it at all.
Yeah, that specific version on that with that specific controller, I can't play it with a race wheel or anything like that. It has to be that exact setup, otherwise it doesn't feel right.
Awesome, awesome game, and as Louis said, very much a product of its time, and also
absolutely
a game that really does kind of, well, when I think back to that point of my life, it just kind of encapsulates everything about it, really.
Encapsulates everything I love about the Dreamcast as well. This, Virtua Tennis, Soul Calibur, and a couple other games were like the big
Blue Skies in Games, the UK Resistance campaign.
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Those were the games that them three games in particular were the ones that I just was hooked on for months. Like, they were probably my biggest Dreamcast plays in general.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant choice. Let's move on to Mike. Mike, your favourite game, please?
Favourite game is Le Mans 24 Hour. By a mile.
Yeah.
By an absolute mile.
By 24 miles. Yeah.
By 24 hours, technically, but I see what you're getting at. It's an amazing game. Just everything about it is amazing. It's the closest to... like I said before, the Codemasters racing games, which have come out since, which are still my favourite games of all time. I've completed all of them, and I've completed them on. Amazing game.
Is that it? Just an amazing game.
How much more do you want to say? I can talk for hours about it. The graphics are amazing for the Dreamcast. The in-car view, although it's not actually in-car as such, but bonnet view is superb. Superb. It seems to be just a perfect position.
Just kind of reiterating everything that we said in the previous kind of.
I love the fact it's. I like my racing games to be based on the sport of racing, so like sort of proper motorsports style games, and I think this is probably the only one on the Dreamcast, apart from the F1 games, which does it properly. So
the only thing, sorry,
no, go on. I
was going to say the only thing that kind of disappoints me slightly is the fact that there's no damage model, real time.
But
I mean,
that
doesn't detract from the game. It doesn't detract from. It didn't detract from Gran Turismo in any way, so it doesn't really detract.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think again, it's this. I see what you're getting. I see what you're getting at. It is certainly an issue in terms of something so realistic, or probably the only sort of game which tries to go for the whole simulation side of things, to not have damage is a bit disappointing. But, I think it took a while for those kind of games, those kind of arcade sim games, to catch on with really good damage modelling. So I think I'd rather have no damage in than sort of a subpar damage.
Yeah, I tell you what, that game upscales incredibly well. Like, I play it on my FrameMeister, and it really blew me away the first time I played it. Like, it looks like a generation ahead.
I think I've seen
other games on the Dreamcast.
Does all those upscale games?
Yeah.
Lemon, it looks amazing, Lemon. It's just so... And compare it to the PS2 version, I think came out afterwards, and I think the PS1 version and PC version came out before. They're just completely different games. Utterly different games.
I mean, it looks really, really, really nice on a VGA monitor as well. It looks stunning. In fact, it's also one of those games I actually discovered recently that if you play it on a different, console from a different region, it also has the double use kind of like naming convention. So if you play the PAL version in an American Dreamcast, it comes up as Test Drive Le Mans.
Yeah, I've got the American version of the. I've got the American version of the game, and when I tried it on my PAL system, it came up as just
Le Mans 24 Hours.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, excellent game. Excellent choice, Mike. Thank you for that. Moving on, Ross, let's talk about your favourite racing game on the Dreamcast.
Yes, so I could have picked Le Mans. I could have picked MSR or Sega Rally or Daytona, but I think all of those games, they've been done better on other systems. Like MSR, like the Project Gotham games, and other series have done it better. Sega Rally, I think the original is still the best one. Same with Daytona. And the port on the 360 is far better than the one on Dreamcast. But the one game that I'm not even just talking about ports of the game, but I don't think they've ever made. Well, it's very unique, and they've never made another game with this kind of feeling and like this. And that game is Crazy Taxi.
Oh, excellent, cool. So two for Crazy Taxi, yeah.
It still lives up like really well. Like now, I can't. There's not really much point in going like from my perspective, like my way of thinking. Like I wouldn't really go back and play MSR because there are better games I can play now, modern games. But Crazy Taxi, there's never been anything like it again, and it's just like fun.
Probably never will be.
Great game. And,
I think a lot of people may have like a bit of an issue with the fact that it's not really a racing game, but
well, you're racing the clock.
Yeah, you are racing the clock.
You're in a car. You're racing from A to B.
You're racing against the clock, and well, that's tough
well,
deal with it.
That's what Outrun is. You're driving against the clock, so there's Crazy Taxi is a very similar mechanic. So.
Yeah, that's a driving game.
Yeah, good point.
Same as Sega Rally, really. I mean, Sega Rally, you're not really racing against the cars. They're just there as place markers. They're not really racing you. And also, that's another game. We were mentioning casual racism. I didn't realize it at the time, but I played it today, and like it made me cringe in a few places. Like I said, pick a car and drive up. I was like, BD Joe, yeah, we gonna have some fun. And I was like, oh my god! And then later on, I picked up this.
He's actually my main pick in that game. I always pick him.
I think he's the fastest, isn't he? But he's slightly less control. Yeah,
and he's not a creepy old man like that other guy.
Gus.
Hey, I'm Gus. Get in the back of my car.
It's 2 a.m. It's 2 a.m. and the clubs are throwing out. Gus is there pulling up. Hey, ladies.
Creepy bastard.
Later on, I picked up this African American woman, and she was pregnant. There's pregnant characters in the game, and I picked her up, and she goes, "Hey, honey, can you take me to Kentucky Fried Chicken? Step on it." And I was like, "Oh." No. And then I got in the car, and like I crashed. And she was like, "Oh, you almost killed me." And Axel goes, "Shut up and let's drive." No, Axel, she's pregnant. And he's like, "Calm down. You're a dick, Axel. I don't want to play as you anymore. You're a dick." Shut up and move your butt.
I must say, Ross, that was a fantastic impression of a strong, independent black woman.
No, that's my impression of the stereotype in Crazy Taxi. Go and play.
Brilliant.
Nicely put.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll finish this off now with my choice. I will say that I was expecting at least somebody to pick something like MSI, the old fail-safes, or Vanishing Point. There's so many good racing games on the Dreamcast. It's hard to like choose one. Obviously, we've done that now, but I'm guessing a lot of people would have expected us to pick like Daytonas and the MSRs of the world. I'm also not going to pick one of those two. My favourite racing game on the Dreamcast is Rush 2049. And it's not just my
Never
favorite.
played it.
It's not just my favorite racing game. It's one of my top 5 Dreamcast games. I absolutely love Rush 2049, and I can't actually really put a reason on that. Just going back a few years before I had the Dreamcast, I was a big fan of San Francisco Rush on the N64 and Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA. And even though they are generally seen as bad games by like the general gaming press, at the time it was they were the time that I had both of those games on my N64. They were like maybe like one of 3 games that I had, so I played them to death. And I just became a big fan of the series. And then when Rush 2049 came to the Dreamcast, I need to get that. And it didn't disappoint. You know, it's an upgrade in every way possible. Better graphics, you know, new tracks. Just the kind of weird sort of...
Wings!
Wings, you know...
Wings! Cars with wings!
The sort of weird sort of...
Best idea ever.
The weird stylized futuristic setting of the tracks, you know. I'm a big fan of things like 2000 AD, you know, and that kind of like weird look at the future. And it's always this dark and like foreboding, you know...
dystopia.
Horrible world. Dystopia, that's the word I was looking for, thank you. Whereas in Rush 2049, it's kind of like the Civic Council of San Francisco has gone, we're not going to go down that route. We're going to make this nice, clean, you know, almost kind of utopian city to live in, and now you're going to race around it. And it's like...
Slim Jim commercials everywhere.
Yeah, Slim Jim, and is it Doritos or something as well? It's like...
Something like that.
It's weird, like...
Can't remember.
Dickies cars... Dickies clothing is advertised everywhere. So at least in 2049 you can still buy Dickies shirts and...
and Slim Jim.
Yeah. But yeah, I think as well, it's the fact that it's got this really kind of cool... like a championship mode where you don't have to come in the top 3 to progress. If you come last, if you have a shocker and come last, you still like get maybe a point, but you can carry on to the next race. And so you get these kind of like scraps, like these mid-table scraps, you know, who's going to come next? You know, who's going to come first in the next race? And, you know, the battle for the championship is on now because, you know, I've lost that race, but I could possibly win the next one. And, I love it. You know, I love it's not a perfect game by any means, but it just means a lot to me, you know, personally. So, yeah.
I absolutely love the stunt mode in that. Going back to demos, I must have played the stunt mode on the demo disc.
Yeah.
For hours on end. It's so fun.
Just to get that many flips in the air and land it. And
and actually manage to land it and not like land and then rotate over and explode like it would happen almost every time. It's like, oh, I got it. Nope.
Weirdly, this is also another game that's really good with the race wheel, you know, from the internal cockpit view.
Oh, okay.
It's very, I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth playing from the internal view with the racing wheel. Yeah, I mean, there's no like real cars and all the tracks obviously like fabrications of real world locations in San Francisco, or not, but yeah, it's just like a really bright, you know, vibrant, really good looking game. And yeah, I'm just a fan. Is that Mike or Ross? Have you played this?
I've never played it. That's the second game, that and Rush Rally, the second game that's come up today that I've never played. And I thought
you should get on those.
I played all the classics. I didn't even realize that. I thought I was like, I didn't realize that was known as a decent game. I thought it was just like, you know, like a port or something from PC or PS1. I didn't realize it was a good game.
On that, no, it's quite interesting that I think the game that's on the Xbox, which is the game that's on Midway Arcade Treasures 3, I think it is based on the Dreamcast version.
Yeah, that's the way I've played this the most, actually. So yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
Does it have all the content, though?
Sorry, what was that?
The Midway Arcade Treasures version is actually the way I played San Francisco Rush 2049 the most, actually. It's pretty... I mean, I've only played the demo of the Dreamcast version, but to be honest with you, they feel almost identical. There might be a little bit of a frame rate drop on the PS2 version, just because there's so many games on the same disc, I think. But at the same time, it's pretty close. And yeah, really fun game. I totally agree with you, like your pick. It is a really fun arcade racing game, and it's just unique as well. It's trying things that are very unique to it and that have never been done in a similar way. And
yeah, it's just going back to what you said there about the frame rate. I mean, the Dreamcast version does suffer from a few frame rate issues when you try to turn, which sounds really bad, but it's not that noticeable, to be honest. And there's also another thing that I really like about it, and that's the headlight effect. It's not a true real-time lighting effect, but it's kind of like a drawn effect.
All right.
And it's hard to explain, but if you play it, if you drive up to a building, these kind of sprites appear on the building, and they mimic. They mimic how headlights look when you actually do drive up to a building, and it kind of grows this effect. And as you back away, it kind of shrinks again. It's really weird and unique, but definitely one to check out because it just looks so odd, but also quite effective. I don't know.
Yeah, it's another that didn't get a release in Japan though. I think racing, the genre of racing games, is definitely the one that Japan loses to PAL and North America regions. I was looking at the list today, and there were 20. There's 20 games in that list that never came out.
MSR didn't come out in Japan.
No,
did it?
MSR a lot of those games in that list didn't.
Yeah.
Trickstar
and yet Spirit of Speed did. So
on the note of MSR not coming out in Japan, when I went to see my air quotes contact about those unreleased Dreamcast games, like Take the Bullet, for example, he actually has the Japanese version of MSR on a GD-ROM. So the game was finished, but it was just never released.
It's just never bothered.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, because obviously, I mean, they had what today? They had Tokyo, London, and
San
Francisco again. Yeah. So they obviously they chose those 3 places to represent each of the main regions, I guess. But and they even had they had Japanese radio, didn't they? And I think
they did. It was all in Japanese with voices.
So they went to a lot of effort. God knows why it never came out. Very strange.
Very strange indeed.
Very odd.
Anyway, guys, I think that kind of wraps it up. We've actually gone through quite a few different Dreamcast games there. Obviously, if there's any that we missed, then please, comment on the podcast or let us know on Facebook or on the main blog where this will be going up. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this episode. Just remains for me to say thank you to my usual co-hosts, Mike, Aaron, and Ross, and also a massive thanks to Lewis for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having us. So really, it's been nice. It's been lovely.
Before we go, I'm just going to do a few little bits of housekeeping. I want to draw attention to the fact that we've got a Patreon, and we've got quite a few people who are supporting the podcast and the site. And I just wanted to give those people a bit of a shout out before we go, because obviously it's nice that they contribute to the upkeep of the podcast and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to give a massive shout out to all the people who've supported us on Patreon, and the list goes like this. From the bottom up, we've got John Thompson, Alex Hirsch, Brandon Aaron, Jason Cathers, Alexander Padilla, Chris Unwin, Garrett Otto, Spencer Johnson, DCGX, Dan Patton, Sean Robinson, James Steele, Tristan Brown, Matthew Smith, Dave Baldwin, Ben Lancaster, Daniel Turner, and Adam Lundgren. On the last person, Adam, I did an interview with him on his Swedish Dreamcast site, which is dreamcast.se. Go and check that out if you can read Swedish. It was really interesting doing an interview in another language. I didn't actually speak Swedish to him. He just kind of
translated. Oh, you didn't?
No.
I was really shocked.
Ross, I can barely speak English, let alone Swedish. So yeah, thanks to all those people who support us on Patreon. We can be found on Twitter at the DC Junkyard. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com, the Dreamcast Junkyard, and groups, the Dreamcast Junkyard, and also the main blog, which is www.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. You can find Lewis on Twitter at
Sonic Yoda for me personally, but if you want to follow Sega Driven, then that is at Sega Driven, facebook.com/Sega Driven, and also the website www.segadriven.com.
Excellent, like a true professional.
There you go. And if you want to check out music stuff, then it's ukscumscene.wordpress.com.
Excellent.
You should also plug Pac Manufactured.
I should, shouldn't I? I keep forgetting I do that. So yeah, I started a little YouTube channel just for shits and giggles. It's all about Pac-Man clones. It's called Pac Manufactured, and unfortunately I haven't got a URL for that, so you'll just have to search for Pac Manufactured on YouTube.
Yes, I will say that I've watched several of your videos, and I found it very interesting looking at all the different Pac-Man clones through the years.
It's a good bit of fun. It's a good bit of fun.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, you can find all the rest of us at our various destinations online. You can find Aaron on Twitter and on YouTube. Aaron, if you'd like to tell the listeners where you can be found.
I can be found at The Gaggerman and also at Lucky Hit Series, and on YouTube at Lucky Hit Series.
And Mike?
At space_turnip.
And as ever, at the Dreamcast Junkyard main blog. And you can find Ross skulking around.
I don't say anything, but I'd like to give a shout out to another group I'm admin of. It's called R84 Retro Revival. It's a small group, only maybe shy of 500 members. But there's a lot of knowledgeable people in there about games, modding, all sorts really, and it's a good group. Like not many like arguments and bickering and stupid memes and stuff like that. Just a really interesting group. So yeah, if you want to check it out, R84 Retro Revival.
And that's on Facebook, yeah?
Facebook, yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Tom Lee C. And yeah, that'll do for this particular episode. If you like what you've heard, please leave us a review on iTunes because it really helps us get some awareness around the podcast. But yeah, once again, thanks to my co-hosts and thank you to you for listening. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Twats.
3, 2, 1, go, go, go! Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.